Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? You sent in this paper, Agents Thinking Fast and Slow, a talker reasoner architecture. And I have to admit, the title alone got me super curious.
Oh, yeah, it's really interesting work. It's all about building AI that can actually, well, think more like we do. Sometimes we make decisions super fast, and other times we really got to think things through.
Right, exactly. So how does this paper connect that thinking fast and slow idea to AI? I feel like I've heard that phrase before somewhere.
It's based on work from Daniel Kahneman. He's a psychologist who won a Nobel Prize for his research on this. Basically, he said that humans have two systems of thought.
Two systems, huh?
Yeah, so system one is all about those quick reactions. It's what helps you slam on the brakes if someone cuts you off, that kind of thing. Super fast, doesn't require a lot of effort.
Gotcha. So system one is like our brain on autopilot. What about the other system?
Well, system two is more deliberate. It's slower but more analytical. Like if you need to plan a trip or make a tough decision, that's when system two kicks in.
So it's like switching from autopilot to manual mode and really focusing. And these researchers, they want to recreate that in AI.
Exactly. They've come up with this talker reasoner architecture for AI agents that kind of mimics our system one and system two thinking.
All right, let's break that down. First up, the talker. What does that do?
Think of the talker like the AI's conversational interface. It's designed to be really fast and engaging, able to hold a natural conversation, almost like those chatbots you see online sometimes.
Oh, okay, I get it. But I'm guessing it's way more advanced than the average chatbot, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Way more sophisticated. It can even remember past conversations and use that information to make things flow more naturally.
So the talker keeps the conversation going, just like a good AI assistant should.
Mm.
But what's happening in the background while all that chatting is going on?
That's where the reasoner comes in. So while the talker's busy chatting, the reasoner is doing the heavy lifting, analyzing information, figuring things out, solving problems.
So it's the more thoughtful, strategic part of the AI, kind of like our own system too. They sound like quite the dynamic duo. But how do they actually work together?
They're constantly communicating through a shared memory. So the talker can grab info from the reasoner to help shape its responses. And the reasoner is also using the talker's interactions to learn more about the world and update its own understanding.
Okay, that makes sense. But this brings up an interesting point. If the reasoner is slower and more deliberate, doesn't that mean the talker might sometimes be working with, well, outdated information? Like it could say something that's no longer accurate because the reasoner hasn't fully processed everything yet.
That's a great point, and you're actually right. It happens with our own minds too sometimes, right? We don't always wait for our system to fully catch up before we say something.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we'd sound pretty robotic if we paused every few seconds to let our internal reasoner finish processing. But what about those situations where you really need to stop and think things through? Does the talker just keep on talking in those cases?
Nope. They actually built in a really neat mechanism that allows the talker to wait for the reasoner to finish up before it responds. It's like saying, hold on, let me think about this for a sec.
So it knows when to hand over the reins to the reasoner for those tougher questions?
Hmm.
I'm really starting to see how this could work, but I'm curious, how did they actually test out this talker reasoner system? Did they build some super intelligent AI that can write novels or something?
Not quite. They decided to test it with a sleep coaching AI.
Now that's something I can definitely relate to. Who hasn't struggled with getting a good night's sleep? All right, break it down for me. How does this whole talker reasoner thing work for sleep coaching?
Imagine you're chatting with the sleep coach AI. The talker is your guide, offering expert advice and support throughout the process.
So it's like a virtual sleep guru guiding me through each step. What's the reasoner doing in the meantime?
Well, the reasoner is like a detective in a way. It's gathering clues from your conversations with the talker, like your sleep habits, your needs, what you're worried about, your goals, all that stuff. Then it takes all that information and creates a personalized plan to help you reach your sleep goals.
It's like having a personalized sleep expert, A&D,
Right.
a friendly coach, all rolled into one AI. Amazing. This is fascinating, but I'd love to see a real-world example. Did the researchers include any sample conversations in the paper to show how this actually plays out?
They did. There's this great example that really shows the talker and reasoner in action. Want to walk through it?
Absolutely. Let's see this talker reasoner team in action.
Okay, so in this example, the person starts by telling the AI that they need help creating a relaxing environment for bedtime.
Sounds like a pretty common problem. What happens next?
The talker, being the helpful agent that it is, asks the user what they think might be disrupting their sleep, kind of guiding them to think about the root of the problem.
Okay, so it Feels like a natural back and forth already.
Yeah.
The talker is prompting the user to think a bit deeper. I like it.
Right. And then the user identifies noise and light as distractions. But at this point, the reasoner hasn't had enough time to fully analyze the user's situation and come up with a tailored plan.
Interesting. So what does the talker do? Does it just go silent while it waits for the reasoner to catch up?
Actually, no. The talker can still offer some immediate advice, drawing on its general knowledge about sleep hygiene. It suggests some basic stuff like identifying noise sources, trying blackout curtains, and maybe using earplugs or a white noise machine.
I see. So it's anticipating the user's needs in a way, even before we fully articulate them. But I guess then the user probably wants something a bit more personalized than just general tips.
You got it. The user then asks for a more detailed plan, like a step-by-step guide, and even requests resources on how to create a more serene bedroom atmosphere. And this is where the reasoner really steps up.
Time for the brains of the operation to shine. What does it come up with?
The reasoner kicks into gear, knowing this requires a more complex plan. It suggests starting with choosing a calming color palette for the bedroom, even citing scientific evidence that certain colors can actually promote relaxation.
So it's not just throwing out random ideas, it's considering the science behind it all.
Exactly. And here's the cool part, it doesn't stop there. The reasoner goes a step further and provides links to specific YouTube videos from relevant channels explaining why those resources would be helpful.
Hold on. The AI is recommending YouTube videos. That's pretty impressive.
Right, and it even explains its reasoning, showing it's making connections and tailoring its recommendations to what the user specifically asked for.
I'm loving this. So the talker keeps the conversation flowing while the reasoner steps in for those more complex questions.
Yeah.
This is shaping up to be a powerful combo. But I gotta ask, are there any situations where this approach might not work so well?
That is a great question. And actually, the paper does dive into some limitations of this whole architecture.
Ooh, limitations and challenges. I'm all ears. Let's explore those in the next part of our deep dive.
You remember how we were talking about the talker sometimes working with information that's not quite up to date? Because the reasoner is still processing. Well, that's actually where one of the limitations comes in. They call it the snap judgment talker in the paper.
Snap judgment talker, that sounds kind of ominous. So what does that mean exactly? Like, is the AI going to start making, like, rash decisions or something?
Not really, no. It's not about making decisions. It's more about giving responses that are, well, maybe a little too quick before the reasoner has had a chance to really catch up, you know?
Ah, I see. So it's like the talkers jumping the gun a bit. I can see how that could be a problem, especially if you're looking for a really well thought out response. Did the researchers give any examples of this snap judgment talker in action?
Yeah, they did. So in one example, the user asks for more steps to be added to their sleep plan, specifically something about incorporating relaxing sounds in their bedroom. And the talker, trying to be helpful, suggests using a white noise machine or listening to nature sounds.
Okay, so that seems like pretty standard sleep advice, right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. What's the issue?
Well, the issue is that the talker's response is kind of generic. It's not really taking into account the user's specific preferences or anything. You know, if it had waited for the reasoner, it might have been able to recommend certain white noise tracks based on the user's taste, or maybe even suggest an app that's known for good nature sounds.
Right, right. So it's like the difference between getting a one-size-fits-all sleep plan online versus having a real sleep expert create something custom just for you. The talker's helpful, sure, but the reasoner is where the real magic happens.
Exactly. But here's the good news. The researchers are totally aware of this whole snap judgment thing, and they're working on ways to fix it. They're trying to figure out how to make the talker more patient, you know, so it can recognize when it needs to wait for the reasoner to chime in.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like teaching it to know when a question needs more than just a quick response. So even with this limitation, are the researchers still feeling optimistic about this whole talker-reasoner approach?
Oh, absolutely. They see this as a big step toward building AI that's more, well, human. Even with the limitations, they've shown it can achieve some pretty amazing results, like, remember that sleep coaching example we talked about?
Totally. It's wild to think that AI could soon be helping us with all sorts of stuff, from planning our day to giving us advice, all while feeling like we're chatting with a real person.
Exactly. That's the key, right? Making it feel less like you're talking to a machine. And the researchers think this talker-reasoner approach is a big part of getting there.
I'm inclined to agree. It's like they're making AI more human-centered, which I think is so important if we want to build AI that people actually trust. But what's next for this research? What other things are they looking into?
One thing they're exploring is how to make the system even more flexible. Like, imagine an AI that can not only think fast and slow, but also learn and adapt as it goes.
That would be incredible. It's like taking this talker-reasoner architecture and giving it the ability to grow and evolve, just like our own minds do.
Yeah.
So instead of being limited to specific tasks, it could handle all sorts of different problems.
Exactly. And they're also looking into the idea of having multiple reasoners, like a whole team of experts working together, each one specialized for a different type of task.
Whoa. So instead of just one brain behind the scenes, there could be a whole bunch of them collaborating. That opens up some pretty wild possibilities.
It really does. And it gets even cooler when you think about those reasoners learning from each other. It's like creating a whole community of AI agents, each one with its own perspective and skills working together to solve problems.
Now that's a mind-blowing thought. It sounds like we're on the verge of some serious breakthroughs here. But before we get too carried away with all these futuristic visions, let's take a step back and recap what we've learned about this whole talker-reasoner architecture.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we've learned about this whole talker-reasoner architecture.
Yeah. So we started off by talking about that whole idea of thinking fast and slow. Remember, that based on work from Daniel Kahneman. It's basically the idea that our brains have two systems, one for those super quick reactions and another for more thoughtful decisions.
Right, exactly. And the cool thing is, these researchers are basically trying to recreate that dynamic duo in AI systems.
Exactly. That's what this whole talker-reasoner architecture is all about. The talker is like the AI's smooth-talking friend, keeping the conversation going. And behind the scenes, you've got the reasoner, which is doing all the heavy thinking and problem-solving. And we even saw it in action with that sleep coaching example, right? The talker was offering support and guidance, and then the reasoner swoops in with this super personalized sleep plan. I mean, it even recommended specific YouTube videos, which is just crazy.
I know, right? It really shows how powerful this combo can be. You've got the friendly coach and the super smart strategist all in one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But we also learned that there are some kinks to work out. Like the talker sometimes jumps the gun a bit and gives answers that are a little too general. That whole snap judgment talker problem they mentioned.
Yeah, but the good news is they're aware of it and working on ways to fix it. Trying to make the talker a little more patient, so to speak.
That's good to hear. It's cool that they're not ignoring those limitations. Makes me feel like they're on the right track.
Definitely. And even with those challenges, they're super optimistic about the future of this whole talker-reasoner thing. They see it as a big step toward making AI more human-like and ultimately more helpful, which is the goal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exciting to imagine what kinds of AI systems we could build if they can overcome these limitations. Like imagine AI tutors who can tailor their lessons to each student's learning style. Or AI assistants that can actually help us make tough decisions.
I know, right? Or even AI collaborators that can help us tackle those super complex problems.
It's like we're on the verge of a whole new era of AI, where it's not just about these cold, calculating machines. It's about building systems that can actually understand us and work with us in a way that feels more natural.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This research is really groundbreaking stuff. I can't wait to see what comes next.
Ye too. It's been a fascinating journey diving into the world of AI that thinks both fast and slow. And for anyone listening out there, if you're interested in learning more about this, definitely check out the full paper online. It's definitely worth a read. Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep exploring the awesome world of AI.